Hi, everybody. I wanted to just give you a brief overview on something that we don't talk about a whole lot, and that is the relationship between the federal government, the state government, environmentalists, lobbying groups, and our local governments. Now, it's true that water is typically administered and controlled locally with your city council, your board of directors. But there is a lot going on in the background between these other players, which is again, federal government, state government, lobbying groups, agriculture. There's just so much going on in the background. Um, Let me go forward. I call this the hustle and flow lecture because who really controls California's water? The interplay between these groups causes an extreme amount of tension between these groups. Everybody wants more water and doesn't necessarily care about anybody else getting it. And a lot of it in California centers around agriculture. Agriculture uses about 80% of the state's water. We all have to eat. I don't want you to think I'm slamming agriculture. I am certainly not. However, agriculture is such big business and they can afford such fantastic lobbies, right? And they have so much pressure on politicians that I'm not sure that agriculture doesn't get the best of the situation. A lot of this centers around, at the federal level, what's called the WOTUS rules, or the Waters of the United States rules. And you saw this very recently when President Trump changed the WOTUS rules to allow more pollutants in to be discharged into waterways. And then President Biden came in and switched those rules back by executive order. So it's very important to understand that the federal government has a part to play, especially in pollution levels, and especially with how much water agriculture gets from the Central Valley Project, which is a federal project. Now, the State Water Project is a California project. So, of course, you're going to have California politics play into that as well. So I want you to see this one headline from 2020. Um, this is an example of the rules were changed, the WOTUS rules were changed, and raw sewage was allowed to be dumped into rivers during the Trump years. Is that a good or a bad thing? Well, it depends on who you are. If you're a business, you don't want to spend a lot of money cleaning that water up. If you're a consumer downstream from that river, it's probably a pretty bad thing. So this is just an example of how this changes at the federal level. Now, this is a diagram of Metropolitan Water District of Southern California's org chart. It's a little diagram that I made on my own. So it's not super sophisticated. I apologize for that, but it is accurate. So Metropolitan Water District is a wholesaler. That means they have no retail customers. And I want you to understand, I've worked for Metropolitan. I as a consultant, I have worked through them when I worked in districts and cities. So they've been nothing but good to me. But I want you to understand how this goes on. So you have MWD, who is the largest water wholesaler in the country, and they have the fourth largest contract for state water, and they also own the Colorado River Aqueduct. Why, you say? Because they were completely designed to build it. Okay, how did it work? Actually clear back in the 20s, they realized they needed more water. So they formed a group called Metropolitan Water District. It had 26 member agencies, which you see represented there. And they built the California River Aqueduct. They own it. They build it. They maintain it. It all comes through a Metropolitan Water District pipe. So this is serious control, right, of a very major water source for Southern California and hydropower. So there were originally 26 member, actually I think originally there were only 13 member agencies, but now there's 26. And you may recognize some of these names. Western Municipal Water District, Eastern Municipal Water District, City of Pasadena, Inland Empire Utilities Agency, City of Los Angeles, San Diego Water Authority, and then so on to fulfill their whole 26 member list. These again don't necessarily directly relate to customers. So, if, for example, Western Municipal Water District has some retail customers, they're primarily a sub wholesaler. They buy water from Metropolitan, they wholesale it to the agencies listed underneath them, which in this case would be Jurupa Community Services District, City of Riverside, City of Corona, etc. Typically, every member agency has at least 8 what's called sub-agencies. And the sub-agencies are the people who supply the retail customer, the folks like us. So when you're looking at this list, remember that everybody's going to get a piece of the money or a piece of the pie as it goes up the chain. I worked for Jurupa Community Services District. We could be an importer from Western Municipal Water District. We survived on groundwater, but so we didn't need to, but we have the option. So let's say that we buy imported water from Western. They get a percentage of our sale, and then they actually bought it from Metropolitan, who gets a percentage of the sale. I also worked for the city of Upland, and we used a fair amount of imported water, which we got from the Inland Empire Utilities Agency. We paid IEUA, who kept part of the money as their fee, and then they bought it from MWD, who kept part of the money. Am I saying this is a terrible thing? No. What I am saying is that you don't get to vote for the people on Metropolitan's board. The people who make the decision on Metropolitan's board are not ever voted on by regular people like me or like you. They are voted into their spot by the member agencies. Now you can vote for the member agency and usually for their board of directors, and most people don't realize how critical a vote that is. I live in the city of Riverside, so I get to vote for whoever's on Western Municipal Water District's board. And then they appoint somebody to Metropolitan's board. So all in all, Metropolitan controls the wholesale water for 19 to 23 million people for the majority of Southern Californians. And everybody needs to understand how this works. When you look at our senators, we have Dianne Feinstein's been around my whole lifetime, and I'm old. She's in her 80s, and she is the senior senator of California. She's very, very powerful. She sits on the Senate Appropriations Committee. What does that mean? Well, she gets to decide who gets the money. She's on the Water and Energy panel, and she is the ranking member. That means she has a lot of authority. And you know, if you watch her, she repeatedly sides with agriculture. Again, I am not saying that is bad. I am just saying this is the reality. Is she accepting donations from them? I don't know. I've never looked into it. But it's interesting to me that she always sides with agriculture. We need food, and maybe she's right in doing that. But realize that who your senator is at the federal level is super important, right? Our other senator is Padilla, a new senator who we would call a junior member. Every state gets 2 senators. I had to show these people because this is such a seamy part of California water. This is Stuart and Linda Resnick, and they're Beverly Hills billionaires. They're number 54. They're billionaires with a B, and they are the world's largest pistachio and almond grower and processing operation. And they own like Paramount Citrus, Palm Wonderful, Fiji Water, and they are phenomenal donators to politicians, right? They also have managed to wrest control of the entire Kern Water Bank into their slimy little hands. And they are the focus of a movie that's part of your extra credit, Water and Power, a California heist. Um, I guess what's particularly galling to me is that this is, their farms are located in the Central Valley. They themselves live in Beverly Hills and I'm sure multiple other places. A lot of the folks in the Central Valley don't have access to clean water. It's so contaminated by agricultural fertilizers and runoff that the folks that are picking don't even have drinking water. And yet you have people like this, and I know I sound nuts, you have people like this who are literally billionaires by controlling the Kern Water Bank, which is public water. How does that happen? I don't know. I just want you to be aware of it. The Westlands Water District is the largest irrigation district in the United States. It's 1,000 square miles. Trust and believe that is gigantic. And they always portray themselves in their ads as like family farmers, like it's me and ma and pa on the farm, but they're really not. They're very large corporate farmers, and everything they do is as a corporation. They have very little regard for family farms. We like to think of agriculture as being this family farms and everybody's tied to the land, but the reality is it's mostly things like the Westlands Water District. They are also very, very large donators to politicians, and that they don't do that for no reason. They're also highlighted in the movie that I suggested you watch for extra credit. I worked with this group, Association of California Water Agencies, quite a bit when I was working at my last job. And it's a very interesting group. Their agricultural and urban water districts all belong to this group. And they have a powerful director, Dave Egerton. They donate like crazy to politicians. Every single piece of water legislation that gets passed in California has basically passed through their hands at some point. I'm not saying they're bad. Water probably needs a spokesperson, but you really need to investigate groups like this who funnel legislation, because I'm not always sure it's to the benefit of normal people like us. And here are the other people who control California water. We talked about your local water boards, right? Your city council, your board of directors. The county has a lot of say in how water is used. City councils, obviously. Staffers, people like us, and managers, people like me in my last job. And you're going to say, what? How is that true? How is that possible? Well, a staffer often controls what gets to the manager. And I just want to give you a small example of this. I thought rain barrels at one point as a staffer were a really great idea to give to our retail customers. Why? Because it gives the customer a sense that they're helping. It's not a huge amount of water, but it lets them help in the ways that they can. It gives them a sense of control over their life. There's all sorts of reasons that a rain barrel might be a good thing as a giveaway. I took this to my then manager and said, I really want to do this program. I think it's a great idea. And the manager went along with it. And we had very, very successful rain barrel sales. And a lot of the people in our district used rain barrels. They were empowered by that, and it went well. Here's the opposite side of that story. There is a large uh, water district in Orange County who has an interest in um, they have an interest in a data collaborative. That means that the data collaborative collects data on water usage across the state, and they they put it into a nice GIS format, mapping format, and they they rolled this out on the road. Sorry, I'm trying to be careful here. I didn't feel it was very helpful. I didn't. I didn't because I barely had time to analyze the data I had in front of me. And I don't really care what they might be doing in Irvine or Oceanside or LA, how those people are using water, because how they're using water is probably going to be relatively different than the way I was using water in the Inland Empire, primarily due to weather. Anyway, this group in Orange County did this big dog and pony show, and they rolled out this massive plan to get everybody all this data, but it was going to cost money. It was expensive. It was $50,000 to get this data. I went to my manager and I said, I don't want to do this. And they asked me why, and I told them, and we didn't do it. You will find as a staffer that you have, just by what you focus on and what you choose to ignore, you have a tremendous impact on everyone within your district or city. If you choose to focus on rain barrels and saving water that way, or turf replacement, or information outreach, you can really impact, you can really impact your customer base. On the other hand, if you choose to ignore something that you find wasteful or maybe not helpful to your particular demographic, you can have the same impact on your customers by saving ratepayer money and not using it for frivolous things. So staffers have a phenomenal amount of control should they choose to use it. Not everything, but should they choose to use it. All of this can be pretty overwhelming for everyone, especially when you're a little new conservation professional. So when you get overwhelmed, right? Just remember you're not alone. Okay? Reach out to your fellow conservation people, talk to them, see what they think. You can always get good ideas. And when you're working on your own projects, think your own border council, then think local, then think state, and then think federal. Okay? See what you can do at your own little level, and then move up and get help and resources from other people in your community, then from the state, and then from the federal governments. Do everything just one step at a time. Okay? Super important. Anyway, that's my little hustle and flow lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.